Hey, what's going on? Coach Luka here, and today what I'm going to do, I'm going to cover part of our coaching system for nutrition. Now, obviously, we can't dive as deep as I'd love to, but here's the thing. First things first, we're going to go over 7 things that successful weight loss, fat loss, transformation clients do, just people in general do. And this is like vastly studied, so it's just not just my opinion and like, hey, I think so. This is like 7 things that have been proven that people that lose the weight and keep it off, dude. This is what's very important. Now, some statistics that'll kind of blow your mind. It's like humans, we're very, very good at losing weight. We're good at losing weight. There's no denial about that. Pretty much, you know, a vast amount, millions and millions and millions of people every year try to lose weight, and they do. They lose it. The thing is that they do not keep it off. And here's the kicker. Within 1 year, 80% of the people that went and lost weight gain it all back, okay? Within 2 years, 85% gain it all back, and within 3, 95% gain it all back. So that means that in the span of 3 years, only 5% of people are successful at losing weight and keeping it off. What's even scarier is that close to 2/3 of those people that lose the weight and gain it back actually gain more back than they started with, right? So my goal today is not only to show you some insight of what successful dieters do, I want to show you the 11 principles and the main kind of like, I would say, things that we do to help our clients, over 3,000 now, you know, gain a body transformation that's sustainable, and also some of the systems that we use for coaching that really help us out. Like obviously this goes very, very deep, but I'm going to shine a light on this, and especially things that like might give you some aha moments and really see why the system is different. So number 1, there's no way around this, okay? Number 1 thing, and once again, this is not necessarily in order of importance, although I will shine a light on what's a little bit more important. People that lost weight and fat that have kept it off successfully have some cognitive restraint, meaning in some way they're limiting and sacrificing stuff. That means limiting calories, maybe certain foods, you know, think carbs or fat or things of that nature, or for instance, processed foods, what we'll talk about later. Macros, so macronutrients, they might limit a macronutrient. Portion control, right? So whether it's smaller plates, like less food. Of course, tracking calories and macros, we'll talk about that later, about tracking, how important that is. But the question is, you know, what are you willing to sacrifice? Because the thing is, it doesn't need to be, you know, when you hear stuff like, hey, keto or this or that or low carb or whatever it may be, or just, you know, carnivore now, there's a lot of different things. The point of it is like, it doesn't have to be one thing. It can fit your lifestyle and your nutrition and what you like, but there has to be some cognitive restraint, right? It's one of those things like you can't have everything that you're doing right now because that's what got you where you are. So that's gonna have to change, and you're gonna have to sacrifice something, but you get to choose what you sacrifice, which is cool, right? It's not like, hey, you gotta do this, this is the only way. Absolutely not. There's a lot of different ways. Now, one thing about intuitive eating, right? We're really big on it, but here's the thing, right? It's very hard to intuitively eat necessarily when intuitive eating got you where you are. So we'll talk a little bit about in our habits about creating awareness around that, which, you know, awareness leads to quality intuitive eating and results. So we'll talk about that. But there has to be some cognitive restraint in some form. You're gonna have to cut calories. You're gonna have to, you know, track maybe your macros, maybe limit a certain food, even a time that you're eating, like the timing window. There's gonna have to be some people that are successful at keeping it off have some type of cognitive restraint. They also have self-monitoring, right? So some form of measuring intake, okay? So think of it this way. If it's out of sight, it's out of mind, right? Like if you're not checking progress, then how are you knowing what's going on? Now that does not mean that you have to track calories. Now, we're fans of it. Doesn't mean that, like, well, if you look at it, 10 clients as inside of Vigor Ground Fitness and Performance, maybe 3 to 4 tracking calories and macros, the other 6 to 7 are having a different approach. And I'll talk about this, but there has to be some type of self-monitoring. It could be, like I said, there's different apps, like U8. There's taking pictures, like we'll keep accountability of people taking pictures. There's food portion sizes and food plates, templates. I like food templates. A lot of our clients love food templates. Like basically, imagine a picture of a plate and like, hey, there's protein, there's veggies, there's some carbs, right? There's your hydration. So just a template of how their meal should look like, and they get to choose what they want. What's the protein you like? What's the carb you like? What's the fat that you like? What's the veggies that you want there, right? Like, so we'll talk and touch on that as well. But like, there has to be some self-monitoring, right? If you're saying to yourself, well, like I'm just gonna get better, and there's nothing to track that, that becomes a very, very difficult situation. And people that have been successful, the 5%, remember, this is what the 5% do, the 5%. So this is a smart thing to do. What's cool about it is like that we adjust it to the person as far as how they're going to monitor and what's the least stressful, because if counting calories is massively stressful for you, it actually might drive bad behaviors. So we're not gonna make you do that. We're gonna have you choose from a lot of different options on how to self-monitor. Number 3 is regular exercise. Honestly, I could and maybe should put that in number 1 because it has much further implications that are very important and powerful than just weight loss and fat loss. Now, here's the thing. This is another powerful thing. From studies and statistics, it shows that over 70% of people that kept the weight off regularly exercise, right? Has some form of exercise. Now, also what it does, it defends the body's lower body fat set point. So just a quick thing, so imagine that if you've been a certain weight for years and your body's developed a set point, and if you lose weight, your body really fights off, I would say, from this new set point, right? So imagine that you wanted to lose 30 pounds, but your body's so used to the body set point of body fat is 30 pounds more, right? Whatever that body fat percentage is. And so it's gonna fight tooth and nail to keep that, so it's gonna be harder for you. When you exercise, you're actually making it easier for your body to drop weight and have a new body fat set point. That is massively powerful. If you kind of know the science behind this, it's massively powerful. So we also know, of course, one of the main things is when we can maintain and build muscle, it improves our metabolism, right? Like just living, right? Just standing here, if I have more lean body mass, right? I'm gonna burn more calories throughout the day, breathing, standing, talking, doing everything, which is why it's one of the best ways to obviously burn body fat and to lower weight. And also be able to maintain it, right? Because as soon as you start losing muscle, your metabolism slows down and now you're just putting yourself in a little bit of a hole. So that's powerful, right? Also, it shows that exercise post-diet prevents increase in fat cell count post-diet. So one of the things that happens a lot of times when we lose weight pretty fast, right? And you put it on pretty fast, we build new body fat cells, which is not a good thing. It's a very bad thing. So exercise prevents that. Strength training prevents that. Okay, so put it this way. Also what happens, look, improvement in insulin sensitivity, blood lipids, blood pressure, and just other health factors that also influence how you feel. So, because look, at the end of the day, cognitive function, mood, depression. Now, in stress levels, how powerful is that? Because a lot of those drive how we eat and our behaviors in eating. Okay, so exercise is just regular exercise. Regular exercise is massively important to all those factors. Okay, from there we go to structured programs. Now, once again, the science shows this, that information is not enough. We have more information than we've ever had. A matter of fact, there's, 165,000 diets, some crazy amount of diets now. And you could go anywhere and find tons of information, and yet at the same time, in the last 16 years, obesity has more than doubled. We've had more information, and obesity has doubled. And part of that is, one, confusion, right? Not really knowing what to do and what's best for you. And you're doing something, you're like, oh, they're saying that that's wrong, but they're saying that this is wrong. So structured programs help because info is not enough. We need information that turns into integration into your life that turns into transformation. And structured and guided supportive programs and coaching really help out with that. Like, once again, statistics show that the people that had, the 5% that had success had help with coaching and structured programs. So here's the thing, humans like structure and somebody to put their trust in. I surely do. When I don't have, I would say, when I want to improve something, I go and try to get a structure from people who have been there, done that are helping people right now do that thing that I want to achieve. And I want to be surrounded by people like that too. I want to be surrounded by the people that are achieving the same goals as me and are supportive, and there's a community of that. Okay? So the other thing is that, like I mentioned, successful dieters participate in structured programs that have support and community, and what it does is increases confidence. So think about that, right? Like, one of the big drivers is that when the self-esteem is low and the confidence is low, it's hard to stick to things. It's hard to stick to habits. It's hard to follow through on things. So when you have that, it increases confidence. And there's a certain structure that we have, for instance, that we help people get wins, right? We don't make them do things where you're failing and failing over again and feeling like you're not going to be successful, or that that you can't do it. It's the opposite way around. We help you build wins, so you keep getting more and more and more confident, and then you can keep taking on more. And that's how we've been able to get over 3,000 people in South Seattle to sustainable transformations. Number 5 is the ability to focus on the long term. Now this is one I love to talk about, because it's when people do not, so the people that, like the 5%, they don't let short-term feelings and desires dictate their behavior, right? So that may be like, you know what, like right now, all my friends are going next door. By the way, next door here, there's Burnett's. There's a lot of delicious wings, they say. And, you know, hey, my friends are going there telling me to come. And I'm kind of like, I want to hang out with my friends. But you know what? I don't want that feeling and desire to dictate my behavior of my long-term goal, which is I want to get healthy. I want to get leaner, build confidence, get stronger, be there for my kids, be able to go hike with them, do this, that, the other, like these meaningful goals. And so what's important, like notice this, I'm going to circle it again, right? For that, we need meaningful goals, okay? Like this is an important factor that we spend a lot of time with people on. Hey, what's the reason you're doing this? Why are you, I want to lose 30 pounds. Okay, why do you want to lose 30 pounds? Because of, you know, I want to fit into my jeans. Okay, why is that important to you? Right? There's a deep reason that is attached to it. And when we have very meaningful goals, I call like goals with an anchor, right? A heavy anchor, right? When we have that and we can go to that, then guess what? We won't let those short-term feelings and desires dictate behavior. But when it's like, hey, I got to get, you know, I got to go on a detox in 3 weeks because I got a family reunion and I don't care about what happens afterwards, that usually not successful. Matter of fact, it's just not. Statistically, the success of that is almost not there, right? So think about hungry now versus long-term goal. This is called recency. So people that have the least recency and are like, hey, I'm hungry right now, I'm gonna hold off a little bit and I'm gonna get home, drink a smoothie, and then have a salad, for instance, right? I'm just obviously making stuff up, but I'm saying hungry right now, I'm like, I can smell the wings. I've just trained, I'm gonna run out and like eat a bunch of wings with a sauce and have a beer. But you know what? Let me focus on my goal. I'm gonna go home first, have a smoothie, eat the meal, and then if I'm still hungry after that, then maybe I'll have a cookie. Guess what? Usually that doesn't happen, right? So first of all, notice how I circled this one. I'm gonna circle it here again with black. Don't focus on quick. The people that succeed do not focus on quick fixes, right? So think about that. That like for the people that are very successful long term do not focus on quick fixes. They're not the people that go, hey, I need to do something real quick, right? And like I'm not thinking about the long term. I'm not thinking about how I'm gonna make this part of my lifestyle, right? Because once again, you could cut out a ton of calories, do 2 hours of cardio a day, and you're gonna lose weight. But can you maintain that for ongoing weeks and months and years? The answer is no. And so you're gonna have that weight regain, right? Yo-yo dieters engage in those behaviors, right? They engage in those behaviors. We do not promote that here at Vigor Ground. And hey, that's number 5 on what the 5% of most successful people don't do. So you gotta know that, right? And here's the thing, what we see is what's called a pause button mentality, and this Precision Nutrition talks about this, okay? The ability to focus on the long term and yo-yo dieting, think about it this way. A person that's like on a short-term goal, I would say, kind of goal like, hey, I gotta achieve this in 45 days. When things come hard, they go like, hey, I'm gonna pause stuff, and then when it's a better time, I'm gonna start it back up again, right? And that's called the pause button mentality. The thing is that life doesn't work that way. In life, what happens is, shit happens all the time. Kids are going to school, job's busier, I got friends that are going out, and like this, there's always something, right? And we have to adjust our behaviors and nutrition to that so that we can be successful long term. So we have a quote which say, not all or nothing, but always something, right? All or nothing is like, hey, I'm on this like super strict meal plan and I'm gonna stick to it. And then when I make a mistake, I'm like, oh shit, I messed up. And now I'm gonna fall off for the next 2 weeks. I'll get back, you know what, right before summer, I'm gonna do this 8-week program, I'm gonna get back on track, right? That's an all or nothing mentality, and that gets you nothing most of the time, and rarely, if ever, gets you all, right? I would say probably more like 100% not getting everything, right? But always something keeps you moving along. Like we had Vigor Ground, we have this dial, right? Hey, 0 to 10, if 10 is perfect, maybe today, you know what, you had a lot of stuff happen, and you can't be a 9 or a 10, but you're gonna be a 5, maybe a 6, but you're not gonna be a 0, right? And when you calculate that over time, what happens is you get a lot of success, right? Because you keep the building blocks going and going and going and stacking these positive behaviors. Now that brings us to number 6, social support. This is massively important, right? When you have active participation and compliments. So basically, positively enforcing things that people are doing well, which is part of our coaching program. And it's not just the coaches that do it, like other people here do it. They're always supporting the positive things that are happening. And you have active participation, you get, guess what? Results, okay? And so the thing is that supporting communities without judgment are part of that support. So meaning, hey, are you in a place where nobody's judging you for how you're eating, if you made a mistake, or if you didn't do perfect, or one day you didn't show up, the next day when you're there, you know what, everybody's high-fiving you and supporting you, right? That's what we do here at Very Good Ground, and that's what's very important, like I said, in those 5% of successful people that do that. They find those communities, right? And so coaches and people you care about doing it with you. So that's the accountability and support part, right? The coaches keep you accountable, but also the people that you care about and that care about you are keeping you accountable to the things that you said that you would do. So the highest level of you, the higher standard of you. But they're not judging you. They're not beating you down like when you're not perfect, because none of us are perfect, right? They're lifting you up and helping you get to that point. And so that's been a massive, massive thing. Now I'm gonna share some statistics that are scary, 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 right? Environments, because social support, I connect environments to that. What are the environments that you find yourself in? Okay, so think about this, because it's been shown that people that have, I would say, a group of other people that they spend a lot of time with, majority of their time with, that are obese, are 68%, if I'm not mistaken, plus minus a couple percentages, but I know it's right about there, are 68% likely to also be obese or overweight, right? So, and like these statistics keep stacking up that you can find them. I actually put a link in the comment section, but the point is that, like, literally is like the environment you put yourself in. It's very difficult to be in a negative environment, an environment that promotes, I would say, behaviors that are gonna, take you towards overweight or obese, and to get positive results. It's very difficult. It's very challenging, and science and statistics prove this over and over and over. So we want to make sure that you start, like that's what we help with coaching, is build an environment that supports your goals and what you want in life. Okay, so some of the other things, because I'm going to flip to our coaching system and some of our 11 rules in a second, some of the other characteristics that we see with the 5% are these. Eating lower calorie foods, right? We know that a lot of, like, say processed food, not saying that you can't eat it at all, not at all, but if that's a lot of what you eat, those are very, very high caloric foods. So small things that don't even fill you up, that have a ton of calories, and that's how you end up overeating. So people, other characteristics, they eat lower calorie foods in general, which are usually whole, unprocessed foods. Number two, they consume higher protein. We're going to talk about that. That's a really big and important thing, and I'll talk about it on the other side. They consume higher fiber. Well, listen, a lot of the vegetables, a lot of fruits have fiber. A lot of smart carbs have fiber. So people usually consume more of that. Flexible versus rigid control. That comes back to this, right? Not being on a very strict, rigid diet, but being more flexible and having more room, what I like to call a basketball court, right? In a basketball court, you can dribble left and right, but you do have boundaries, right? So you gotta have some boundaries, you gotta have some restrictions. But hey, listen, you like wine and bread, and cool, you can have those things inside of those boundaries. And that's where flexible is. And we have some rules and a system around that. Okay, limiting snacking. A lot of people say, hey, I'm eating healthy snacks, but it's been proven that when you snack, what's called also grazing, people usually eat an extra 500 to 700 calories a day just snacking and grazing. And if you ask them, hey, tell me what you ate today, they a lot of times will omit and forget that they even did it. So now, it's like, hey, I'm not overeating, but really they are, but they're just not thinking about it, okay? So people that are successful limit their snacking. They limit stress. Stress is very important because guess what? Stress, it usually leads you to stress eating, right? So this is a hugely important factor. Eating mindfully, which we'll touch on in a little bit, is another thing that most people do. They don't eat to stress and emotions. Now, some people don't have any choice, and like I said, we also work with and outsource that at times, but we do have systems and we regulate this, and we have a little thing called HALT, right? And HALT is just a question that kind of stops you in your tracks and says, hey, listen, I'm hungry right now, but am I really? Am I hungry, am I angry, or am I lonely, or am I tired? Because angry, lonely, and tired actually drive you to eat because eating is comfortable, right? So it gives you comfort, and then you can calm down. It's like a habit loop. So what we do a lot of times with our clients, we help break these habit loops and make people aware of them. We have a lot of success with that, right? Don't stay up late. So people that are usually not sleeping a lot and staying up late have more time in which they consume more calories and more foods. And usually those are those grazing times, watching TV, mindlessly eating, right? Not even knowing how much you eat. So that's one of those. Then satisfaction with results, meaning that like you're appreciating the results that you're getting, and not always like when you achieve a result that you don't go like, oh, you know, but that's not that great. I gotta do. I know I lost 10 pounds, but I gotta lose 20 pounds. Oh, I know I deadlifted 30 pounds more, but I should be strong in that, right? So when you're satisfied, meaning that like you're like, oh man, I achieved this, that was great, and you shine a light on your wins and you shine a light on your success, like those people have a much better success rate over the long term. And high level of emotional intelligence and mindfulness. And of course, like first, because it's like when you're more aware of, emotionally aware and empathetic to others, you're also like that to yourself and more mindful about, I would say, eating, more mindful about creating space when you're stressed and like, hey, maybe I need to take 5 deep breaths right now before I make a decision and go eat, right? So these are the 7 things with a lot of little bit of extra stuff there at the bottom that make, I would say, people that lose weight, that lose body fat successful in the long term. So remember we talked about those statistics over the 3 years. So these are the 5% that lose weight and keep it off over 3 years, right? Statistically proven. Now this is gonna make us flip the chart here for a second. All right, so now we're kind of gonna go into a little bit of the systems and coaching that we do and you know, dive as deep as we can in a decently short amount of time. But you know, what this is, actually I noticed that I didn't write it. So this is the fat loss pyramid, okay? The fat loss pyramid, imagine it's like a hierarchy of things that we're looking at, okay? So the number one thing that we wanna promote, first of all, is this, sustainability and adherence. Like nothing matters if we can't do it in the long term. We just, no matter if somebody says, hey Luka, man, I'm about to do keto, right? If they can't sustain it and adhere to it long term, it's probably not the best fit because they're gonna have to switch it up and do something else, and that becomes very challenging, right? So, and it goes for anything. I'm not you know, bashing on keto. Like we here are, I would say, what's called food agnostics. We don't have a camp that we belong to. We believe in the principles, you know, of, I would say, nutrition that work on the 3 things. Body composition, because hey look, who doesn't want to look better naked? And lower body fat is healthier and it keeps you confidence and all these great things. So you want to look good. So body composition, like you want to change the way that you look, you want to look good. Number 2 is health. Body composition is, you know, if you're lean but you're not healthy, which is very possible, that's not great. And then also performance, right? Because you want to have all 3. You want to have body composition change, you want to have an improvement in health, and you want to have improvement in performance, meaning like you can do stuff, right? So imagine that like you're getting leaner, but then you can't, you know, your conditioning goes down the drain, you get weaker, you start to get injuries, not good, right? So things that like we promote with sustainability and adherence, things that are going to help your body composition, your health, and your performance, all 3. And you can do that holy trinity, you can do that. But once again, remember this question, whatever you choose to do when it comes to dieting, when it comes to your nutrition, can you do it for good? Right? If the answer is no, you might want to reassess that. From there we go to calorie deficit, right? So if we're trying to lose weight, honestly, one of the most important things is calorie deficit. Meaning like, hey, look, if you're eating less calories than you're consuming in a day through your metabolism and your training and your activity and exercise, right, you are going to lose weight. And proven by even like this is a little bit of a crazy example. I'm not saying this is a smart way to eat, but a person that just ate potatoes and nothing else lost a significant amount of weight. Why? Because he ate less calories than he consumed. Than he burned. So calorie deficit matters, right? It really is when it comes to losing weight. This is the most important thing. Now things can, I would say, change how your metabolism works. So if you've gained and lost weight a number of times, and I actually did a whole seminar called Fat Loss Forever that you can find on YouTube, but like I talked about this. If you lose weight fast, gain weight back, lose it fast, and you do that a number of times, what happens is you have a metabolic adaptation and you burn less calories just living. So we have to adjust for that, and like that's why we spend a lot of time with our clients talking about what's going on, what they've done in the past, where they are now, which we make things the least amount of overwhelming. Like nothing is crazy, rigid, compact, making you feel like, oh my God, I won't have a social life, I can't eat any of the foods that I love. It's the opposite from that. And because we know calorie deficit is most important, we can now adjust these things. Number 3, we talked about it, exercise is so important, even though not just from a calorie burning perspective, but from a perspective of like health, maintaining your lean body mass, right? Being able to do stuff, all these like reducing stress, improving cognitive performance and depression, and all these things that help out. But of course, it helps us maintain lean body mass, improves our metabolism, improves like where our body set point is when we're dieting. And so there's so many positive things here that it's almost, like, I'm gonna sound biased, obviously, because we're coaches here at a gym, at a transformation gym. But nonetheless, like, even with people that, like I said, they don't train here, like, I'm like, hey, you gotta exercise in some form. From there, self-monitoring, like, hey, and especially this is the most important at the beginning, before, meaning that, like, you have to, like, have something to track, to keep you on track and on point. And maybe that's, like I said, weighing yourself, body, pictures, measurements, like having monitoring from a standpoint of, at this point in time, for me personally, like, I don't monitor calories anymore, because I'm at a place where I do food templates. Like, I can look at stuff and know, but I did that for a long time, and I monitor my calories for a while too before I got there. So you can get to that place and not have to, I would say, track everything. And like I said, we have different ways of doing that are not stressful. So we adapt that to you, to each individual. It's not something that's like, you gotta do it this one way and there's no other way. Absolutely not. There's many ways, and the one that fits you the best is the one you should do. From there, we talked about protein and fiber intake, right? So very, very important, protein and fiber intake. Protein is what's called a thermogenic food. You actually burn more calories digesting protein than anything else, right? It's a lot more, actually, like 30% of most calories, where carbs are only like about 10 to 12, and then fat is only about 3, somewhere around there. So you can see how you burn way more calories eating protein than you do digesting protein than you do with the other 2 macronutrients. But also, it's the building block of muscle. So obviously, protein helps support muscle maintenance and muscle building. Then, there's obviously nitrogen balance, all these important factors there as well that we're not going to talk about right now. And it's also more filling. Most protein foods are more satiating, meaning that, like, when you eat them, you feel more fuller, right? Whereas a lot of, like, I would say, processed sugar, fat, salt foods, and when you eat them, pack on a lot of calories, but you don't feel full, right? So there's a lot of benefits there. From there, we go to carbs and fat. And here's the thing, this could be very level. Like, you could eat a very equal amount of carbs and fat. Maybe you like carbs more and you eat more carbs and less fat. Maybe you like fats more, you eat more fats and lower carbs. What's awesome is that we can adjust it to you, and it can be the way you want it. And sometimes you can even cycle it. You can do, there's so many different things. Once again, adjust it to you. But notice where they come into play. Some people are like, oh, we should go low carb, and they put, like, the macros down here. But notice in a pyramid, that's not important. And then only at the top, you have number 6, supplements. So a lot of people will be like, oh, which supplements should I take? What should I do? Da, da, da. Not to say, look, supplements are exactly that. They're supplementary to what we do with nutrition. Now, what that means is that, like, look, most people are deficient in things like, getting enough fiber and nutrients from vegetables, so we do things like greens drinks. Most people have a hard time getting enough protein intake in, so we do protein shakes. Most people are low on, especially in places like Washington, vitamin D, so we do vitamin D, K12. Omega-3 is something like fish, krill oil. Those are usually deficiencies, so we add that. And there's some others, like we'll find out what people are deficient in, but those are the main ones that we supplement with them. But guess what? They don't come all the way at the bottom. Like, hey, if all this stuff is not in check, supplements really don't matter that much, right? So that's what's important. And notice what's really, really, really at the bottom of it all of this is driven by behaviors and lifestyle, okay? And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go into some of the things that we do that are kind of the behaviors and lifestyle that drive this, okay? And these are our 11 points. Now, we're not saying that these are the only ones, right? Because we adjust everything to each person, but most people on that 5%, they get these down and they get a lot of success, okay? So one is planning, preparing, and cooking. So why this is so important is because, at this point in time, I say by default, right? So if you have no path or plan, your default will be struggle. Meaning, if you have no path or plan and you don't plan and prepare, you're gonna do the same things you've been doing right now, which has led you to where you are right now, which is where you don't wanna be because you wanna change, right? So when you plan, prepare, and cook, and sometimes, hey, that doesn't mean you're gonna cook every meal. Maybe, right now you're not even cooking that much, or maybe you're not even gonna cook. Maybe you're just gonna make a smoothie, right? We're gonna find that out right here. Don't worry, we're gonna get to it, right? But the point of it is, even when you go to work and you're like, hey, I'm gonna eat the cafeteria, you know what? There's a restaurant with healthy bowls down the street, and I can get veggies and quality protein and some smart carbs and some good fats, and I'm gonna eat like 400 calories less than I usually do in a cafeteria because they don't really have good choices. So I'm gonna plan on that, right? I'm gonna prepare for it, okay? And I'm gonna go and walk there, which now is getting me 10 minutes extra walking in a day, right? And now I'm in a different environment, I'm gonna eat there. So that might be part of planning. Hey, I'm gonna make a smoothie the night before, so when I get up, I have a really good, healthy, delicious smoothie packed with protein and other good nutrients in the morning, right? And maybe that's, my cooking, okay? But we highly recommend, and we work with people to find out how that's gonna look like in their day, in their lives, and it creates a massive difference. Even if we just change one meal at the beginning, and that goes over time, it makes a big difference, okay? Number 2 is food journaling / tracking. Now this is where we get to, when we talk about like that there's different ways of tracking, meaning you can use MyFitnessPal or any type of app that can track calories. Hey, that's great. But maybe if you don't like doing that and you're like if I'm me just saying it, you go like, oh, I don't want to do that. Cool. You know what? We can write it in a journal. We can take pictures of it. There's a cool app called You Ate, where you can take a snap, like literally takes you seconds. You take a picture of what you ate and you wrote, like you can write if you want to, how you were feeling. Was it compliant with your behavior? So it makes you aware, right? Because you got to go like, hey, does that fit your goals? And you might be like, ah, shit, it doesn't. Okay, cool. You know what? That's okay. Don't beat yourself up. Just write it there. No, it's not compliant. But now you're tracking it. Your coach can look at the stuff that you're doing. And once again, now you have that awareness. Because the goal is not to be perfect. The goal is to get better. And I'll show, actually, you know what? I'm going to flip this around real quick and delete one of these things. And let's do this real quick. So you guys know that I'm doing this, not playing, just coaching, right? So think about it this way. This is you are right here, and we're gonna draw this really great stick figure that looks like a regular human being, right? Absolutely. And this is your goal. What's your sustainable goal that you want to achieve? I don't know. Let's say it's 40 pounds fat loss and building strength and whatever it may be. And now it's a bigger stick figure because this is a better version of you. Right, so here's the thing, the reason that I'm bringing this up, okay? Because this is, let's say that this is 90% compliant. So remember, never 100%. Nobody's ever gonna be 100% compliant. We don't even shoot for that. We shoot for 90%, 85 to 90, right? Because 10 to 15% at a time, maybe even more, you should do stuff like eat pizza and eat cookies and wine and bread, right? Now maybe right now you're 20-80, okay? 20% of the time you're compliant within your goals and 80% you're not. And that's why you're going maybe backwards and gaining weight and not where you want to be. Okay, and we want to get to 90-10. So let's say this is 90-10 is perfect. Notice, it's not 110, it's 90, it's not 100-0, it's 90-10, or 80-20, right? But you're here right now at 80-20, 20-80. Well, guess what? If in a month you're at 50-50, I guarantee you're going to have results. You're exercising, now you're at 50% compliance. Guess what you just did? You just improved, right? You went forward. This is what I call success, right? Success means succession, which means moving forward, means taking the next step, right? It doesn't mean perfection, it means success comes from succession, which means the next thing. So let's say in another month now, we're at 65-35. Awesome. In another month now, we're at 75-25. Okay, and in another month, we're at 85-15. Guess what? Right here, you're a very different person. You've lost weight, you've lost body fat, you've built muscle, you're happier, you're healthier, you're more confident, you can do more shit. It's great. But notice what we didn't do is we didn't even expect that, to jump from here to here. That is not you know what that is? That is what yo-yo dieters do when they go, I'm gonna go gung-ho for 30 days and become perfect. Or I'm gonna go on this perfect diet and stay perfect on it. That's not what happens. So the way that we coach is we coach in a way that's not overwhelming and stressful, and you can plug these things in and you can keep a lot of the things that you do, right? And be successful and long term. So coming back to this is what I wanted to bring this up, because like I said, when we're tracking this stuff, hey, if you're not perfect, so what, right? But we want to keep pushing and coaching you, keeping you accountable, supporting to where you're moving forward nonstop. And sometimes you'll move a little faster, and sometimes you move a little slower. I say it's like bamboo. Bamboo always grows. Sometimes it's not that noticeable, and sometimes it just shoots, right? And so these are the habits that we plug in to help, I would say, our clients do that. Number 3 is eating whole unprocessed foods. Now, why is that important? First of all, right, they're lower in calories, they're more filling, they're more healthy, they give you micronutrients, macronutrients, right? They give you fiber, so on and so forth. They're real foods. Now that doesn't mean that processed foods are evil and when you eat them, when you eat a cookie and a pizza, that the world's gonna fall apart. Absolutely not. We actually encourage people to eat those things that they like. We just control how much of that we do, or I should say, you choose how much of that you do. And that's part of the magic of the coaching system, okay? So eating whole and processed foods is a big one. Eating plenty of protein, we just talked about that. Now, what is plenty of protein? We recommend 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So take me, I'm about 200 plus pounds, but let's say I'm 200 pounds, right? I shoot for 160 to 200 grams of protein per day, okay? So if you're 150 pounds, you're gonna shoot somewhere between 130 to 150 grams of protein per day. So if you're eating 3 meals a day, you can split it up, you can have some snacks of protein and so on and so forth. It's a massive, so here's a crazy statistic. There was a study done over a course of 16 weeks where they took 2 groups. One group, they said, you eat whatever you want, just keep eating like you are. We're gonna just track you and see what's going on. The other group, they said, hey, look, you can do whatever you want, but you gotta eat 40 grams of protein with every meal. That's the only thing you have to do, nothing else. Like everything else, you can do whatever you want. The group that ate the protein, that was the only thing that they did different than the other group, right? No other restrictions, no nothing. Ended up eating over 400 calories, I think it was like 470 calories less per day than the other group, and lost 16 pounds more in those 16 weeks, okay? Because the other group didn't really lose much weight, to be honest. But imagine that, just that one thing, adding protein to every meal made those people so much more successful with their nutrition, because I talked about it, right? Satiety, maintains muscle mass, and they ate 400 plus calories less than the other group. Now you can see how that one habit can be so massively powerful, right? So number 5 is 2 things. Drink more water and eliminate calorie drinks. Matter of fact, I say drink more 0-calorie drinks. Yes, preferably water, preferably things like teas and things of that nature. But a huge difference is the same thing. If I'm not mistaken, it's like most Americans drink between 400 and 500 calories a day. So drink 400 to 500 calories a day. So when we ask people like, hey, tell us a little bit about how, your day, and like, let me see what you're eating. Most people don't think about like how they're drinking calories and how many of they're drinking. So when we eliminate that, we see a lot of results with weight loss and fat loss. So that is a habit that we can implement. So we'll see what's happening, and then we'll make some changes. To a degree that like Jason, I remember this is an example from last year. It's a specific example that when one of our clients that was in Strength camp, probably actually more than a year ago, but his name was Jason, and we cut out, we went from Coca-Cola, regular Coke, to Coke Zero, right? That was the main shift, and we cut out beer drinking, and not completely cut it out, we just cut it down to 4 per week. 4 beers a week, and switched that. First month, 16 pounds of weight loss. Now, Jason had quite a bit of weight to lose, and guess what? He lost a lot of weight with us. But imagine that was we didn't even start changing the food yet. We just changed Coca-Cola to Coke Zero and cut down the beers to 4 a week. That was it. And so one of his remarks at the end of month 1 was like, that's crazy. Like that was the most underwhelming thing that I've done, meaning all the stuff he done before was like really strict, really rigid, really, I gotta change my whole meal plan and this many meals and this and that, and it was overwhelming. He always fell off. So for him, that was just through analyzing, we'll talk about that later, we went into that, and that was his weight loss, right? So you can just see that like what I call small hinges swing big doors, right? Strategic habits can make a big difference, and it doesn't have to be overwhelming. So that was a big one. Eating a variety of vegetables and fruits. Now at the beginning, matter of fact, like the thing that I like at the beginning is people choose what they love. We don't make people do stuff that they don't love. Like, hey, which are the veggies that you love? Those ones, cool, we're gonna eat those. Let's see how we can eat those, right? Which ones do you like, right? So we find like these ABC charts, and we kind of do those. And I love making smoothies out of veggies and fruits because they're delicious. You can compound a lot of stuff in it. I love adding things like athletic greens, which is our favorite, I would say, greens drink, the most quality greens drink powder. And so we'll add that in. So now you got another 6, 7 servings of veggies in a powder you can put in a delicious smoothie, and you can kind of add that. Now, obviously, we also promote and love eating real vegetables because that helps out a lot. Satiety, fiber, the things that we talked about, right? So adding those in and replacing what we call dietary displacement. Instead of telling you to stop eating all this stuff, we actually add stuff, right? So we add more protein, we add more fruit and veggies, and guess what happens? Some of the other stuff that you don't need goes out without me having to tell you to do it. It's called dietary displacement. It's a great strategy. Number 7 is eat to 80% full mindfully. So one of the things that I would say like is in America now across the world is that people eat very fast. They don't take time to eat, right? Actually, I got a little, I would say, homework for you. next time you eat a meal, a lunch or something like that, time yourself, see how long it takes for you to eat it, right? Every meal, it should take at least 15 minutes, like at least 15 minutes, meaning that if you start like putting, every time you take a bite, put a fork down, chew it through, right? There's different ways that you can do that. But when you eat mindfully and slower, the brain satiety, like hormone, like basically your brain registers satiety, right? It means that like, oh, now I'm full. But if you eat so fast, your brain can't even register it, your gut can't even register it, and that's why you can overeat so much. So just doing little stuff like, hey, let's pick one meal and make sure you're spending a certain amount of eating it. So if you eat it in 5 minutes right now, let's get you to 8, let's get you to 10, let's get you to 15. And this really, really helps because people most of the time will start, I would say, recognizing like, wow, like I get full like if I eat slower. Okay, so that's one of them. Eating smart carbs and healthy fats is another. And what, smart carbs are just carbs that, put it this way, they have, lower glycemic index. Also, they have more fiber. There's specific carbs that make you fuller, right? Certain potatoes and sweet potatoes and yams and that nature. Like you can eat a lot and it doesn't have a lot of calories and has good nutrients. So those are smart carbs. Not to say that you can't eat any other carbs. We're saying if you make smart carbs your foundation, you're gonna get a lot of success. Same thing with healthy fats. Things like most people undereat on omega-3s, right? They eat a lot more of certain fats than others. Like they eat a lot more omega-9s, not as many of 3s. So adding things like fish oils, krill oil, avocados, nuts in a certain nature, coconut oils, things like that become very, very important. Number 9, changing your environment. Now I could spend a lot of time on this one. This one right here, actually I want to underline this one because it's that important, okay? Now I was sharing some of those statistics about environment as far as like the people you surround yourself with. If you go into a restaurant that has no quality foods, you know what? You're not gonna have a lot of success. Here's another thing about restaurants, okay? Eating out a lot, the problem is that like you don't know what is in the food, meaning you don't know how they cook it, you don't know how much calories the sauces have, and now you've seen more restaurants adding calories to it, and it's mind-blowing because people are like, wow, this salad has 1,500 calories. This, that's 70% of the calories for my day, and I thought it was healthy because it's a salad, right? So eating out like is an environment thing, okay? And where are you eating out? The people you surround yourself with that influence your decisions of what you drink, what you eat, is the environment positive or negative? Is it supportive or is it cutting you down? This is one of the most, I always say, like one of the most important things that you can ever do is choose who you surround yourself with and choose the environments you're in. Now we can't always choose them, but you have a lot more control than a lot of times than you think and right? You can pick and choose a lot of things, okay? So changing your environment, this is something that we work on. Like this is a strategy that we work on, okay? A lot. And like I said, part of the reason why we have, even FitBar in the building is post-workout smoothies, having something that's gonna fuel you, be fuel that's good for you, that's helping you achieve your goals, and yet at the same time, right, like not taking you away from your goals. That's part of environment. Okay, number 10 is improving your sleep and stress. So we talked about the sleep part, that people that sleep less, they go to sleep later, tend to overeat and they have a harder time losing and keeping the weight off. Same thing with stress. Actually, if there's an incredible book called Why We Sleep. Now, if you read that book, you will be mind blown by how many things and what happens that's negative for you, for your emotional state, for your physical state, for your cognitive, I would say, performance, right? How well you think, how well you remember, short-term memory, all these things when it comes to, I would say, sleep. So, get an audio book or buy it, trust me. So one of the things we assess first is when people don't have quality sleep, and when we start helping them fix that, man, they start getting leaner, they start getting stronger, they start dropping body fat, right? A lot of positive things happen. Their mood improves, their energy levels improve, right? So this is very, very important. It's one of the habits that drives a lot of this, okay? And then here, 11, even though it's not last, it's quality strength training, cardio, and recovery put into a structure. Remember we talked about structured programs? That's what we do. We do structured training programs and we do structured nutrition with boundaries. Like I said, it's not rigid, it's flexible, but it has structure, okay? And that's why people that I would say coach with us are successful. And so I'm gonna go into a little bit, okay? This is just some of the things that I wanna show, like that's the actual kind of like the puzzle pieces behind the scenes of this, right? It's important to understand that we're really big on coaching and this science. It's like a science and art put together. And so when we assess, like when we sit down with a client, we do a strategy session to find out, you know, where they are right now, point A, where they want to go, point B. And then we assess a couple of things. Goals. So what does a client want to do? What do they want to achieve, right? So we start there, like this is the most important. Remember, and it's like not only that, why do they want to achieve it? The anchors. What is the meaning behind that goal? It has to be a powerful meaning that drives them from the inside out, right? Intrinsic motivation. Not just external motivation, right? Like, but intrinsic. Number two is like knowledge. Hey, what do clients know? And that's why a big part of for us is also educating, right? Because if a client has I would say a certain knowledge that may be, I would say, taking them away from their goal, then we want to educate. But we also want to work within the knowledge that they have. From there, it's competence and skill. This is very, very important. What clients can do. So that perfect example here of competence and skill, for example, hey, college student wants to build muscle, doesn't really cook, doesn't have time to cook, you know, and it's going to be hard for them. Now, I'm a big fan of like, hey, learning to cook your meals. But maybe that competence and skill is not there. So we're going to have to find ways to plug in nutrition that doesn't have them cooking three times a day, or you know, cooking for 3 hours on a Sunday, because the competence and skill may not be there, okay? So that's very important. Like we can't put a round peg through a square hole. So we help the client with where they're at, with what they got, and still help them be successful, and then build that competence and those skills, right, with time. Okay, so that's very, very important. And then from there we go to consistency. What clients can do repeatedly and well. If you cannot do it repeatedly and well, guess what? That breaks the bottom of the pyramid, which is sustainability and adherence, right? So when people can do something consistently and well, then we build on that. Okay, if somebody's like, hey, yeah, sure, I can cut out this and do this and cook, you know, 3 times a day, but I can only do it for 7 days. Well, that's not sustainable, and we can't adhere to that. But maybe, you know, maybe every morning they can make themselves a smoothie. Cool, and they can do that sustainably and adhere to that. Awesome, let's go with that. Let's work on that. Okay, maybe like, you know, in 6 to 8 weeks, they can start working on eating a healthy bowl based on our kind of nutrition template, like a plate template, and that's easy enough because they can do it in 10 to 15 minutes while they're listening to a podcast, and it's delicious and they taste good, and we get it down. Fantastic. We're going to stick with that. Okay, but we look at goals, knowledge, competence, and skill, and then consistency, and that is where we start as part of our model. Okay, and what we do is we break down. Now notice like how we looked at these habits. And from here, like once we have our outcome, our goal, like our end goal, like I said, let's say we take that previous example as lowering blood pressure, getting blood work better, and then losing, you know, 40 pounds, example, okay? Well, from there, we kind of reverse engineer and we go, okay, cool, well this month, what are we gonna do, okay? And there's gonna be a specific set of habits. Maybe just 1 or 2 or maybe 3 that we'll work on. Most of the time it's gonna be 1 or 2, to be honest with you. Right, and we're going to write those habits out, and maybe it's something from here, and then we get granular with strategies. Instead of just saying, hey, eat more protein with every meal, that's not precise. We'll go like, hey, listen, let's work on your breakfast first, right? Because we do 1 or 2 things. We go for the big kahuna. So the big kahuna is the tough stuff. It's the habit that's really challenging for you, and you get to choose. Hey, do you want to work on the big kahuna first, or do you want to, you know, work on the low-hanging fruit? What's the easiest thing to do that's going to help you win? Which is what we do with most people. Like we actually help them win. Like, hey, yeah, that seems like something I can definitely do. Awesome, let's go with that. So let's go with that, okay? And so we'll break that down. And then we'll break it down into this week. Okay, what are we gonna do this week? And then that's gonna break down into daily, what I call daily practice, right? Right, it's a habit, but it's a daily practice. So we're gonna practice these habits, okay? So imagine if we're gonna practice this, or we're gonna practice that, right? Like we're gonna break down for each individual what they're gonna practice on a daily. So then you focus on the process. You're not focusing on, oh my God, am I losing weight? If you focus on the process and you get your check marks, like your daily, hey, I did that, I did that, and over time we see that you were doing the things that are gonna lead you to result, you're going to be successful. You're going to be successful. And that's how we break it down. We make it the least overwhelming possible, right? Because studies have shown, number one, that like when you do too many habits at once, for most people, it's challenging to change. Now, here's the thing. We don't judge and assume anything. We go through our system and we try to understand. We really find out as much about the client. And I'll show you guys in a second how we do that in our 6 coaching steps, right, that we do. But before I do that, I want to show you a little bit of a model. This is something that you can use yourself. A lot of this you can use yourself, right? This is not like, hey, like if you don't work with us, we can't do any of that. No, I wanted to kind of show you the behind the scenes of things that you guys can do yourself, okay? And how you can plug these things in, okay? And how you can use some of these strategies. But this is kind of a little model that I took from Precision Nutrition that works really well. But let's say, what do I want to do? And if what I want to do here was build 15 pounds of muscle, okay? And remember, I'm just making these goals up because I want to use examples. I use some weight loss and fat loss examples. I want to build muscle example. So behavior number 1, what do I have to start doing if I want to build muscle? Well, here's the thing. I definitely have to do strength training. All right, there's no way around it, okay? So what does that involve? Well, for a beginner, that's like 3 times a week, gym, on a structured program. Now, does that mean, with a coach or you're doing it yourself? Obviously, I highly recommend a coach. I'm very, very biased. I'm telling you that right off the bat. But, you want to do full body. Most of the time, strength training is a great beginner thing. Like I said, I'm kind of keeping it generic. But you want to write that stuff out. Behavior 1, what does it involve? Why does it matter? Now, I can't write it in here, but it's like, hey, because strength training breaks down muscle and then your body rebuilds it bigger because it has to adapt to that, right? So not only does strength training make us stronger, it also improves our muscle mass, okay? So why does it matter? It's like I would say, a crucial, a component of improving your body, your lean body mass, right? How will I know that I've done it? Now, how will I know I've done it might be like, my workout journal, I'll have filled it out and knocked it out. Hey, I'll have gone with my workout buddy 3 times a week. Hey, I'll have done it with my coach 3 times a week. Right? I'm going to be accountable to my coach who I've invested in. He's going to give me a structured program that gets results, and that's how I'm going to be. What will it take for me to move on to the next step, to the next behavior? And maybe that's like 4 weeks of consistent 3 times a week. Or, hey, if I'm 90% compliant, so that means in 4 weeks, 4 times 12, 90% of that is, 11 workouts. So if I get 11 workouts in 4 weeks, I'm going to move on to behavior number 2. Behavior number 2 might be add what I call power smoothie, right? So this person might have a tough time adding enough calories to gain weight. So what does it involve? Making super smoothie, power smoothie, post-workout, for instance. Why does it matter? Because it's going to help me get enough protein and enough quality nutrients and calories to take me over my, I would say, baseline of calories to start building muscle. How will I know that I've done it? I'll take a picture and send it to my coach every day. If you got a coach, an accountability coach that's helping you out. What will it take to move on to the next step? Same thing. Hey, in that month, I'll have done, 27 out of 30 days, I'll have at least 27 smoothies. Or in 2 weeks, I'll get, 12 out of 14 days, I'll get this smoothie in, and then I can add behavior number 3. And you can see how that works, right? Like, we are very clear. What does it involve? Why does it matter? Because if you don't know why it matters, if I don't know, if you as a client don't know how it matters, you're not going to do it. Hey, we're going to do strength training. Man, I don't like strength training. Okay, look, strength training is the only way. Now, there's different types of strength training. Hey, maybe you love doing kettlebells. Maybe you like doing barbells. Maybe you like start with body weight. Maybe you like this, that. We can do a lot of cool stuff and different stuff that you like. But guess what? It matters, and we have to do that to get there. How will I know that I've done it? You can use this for anything in life, by the way, right? How will I know that I've done it? Well, that's the accountability part. How do I know that I actually, hey, I have a habit, like I love the Atomic Habits journal, the Clear journal, where I tick off, right? I tick off whether I've done something. So I can look every day like, wow, look, I'm 80% compliant. Ooh, you know what? I dropped off a little bit. What's going on? You know what I mean? But that's why you have community and support and coaches to help you do that. But we have a whole system. Because guess what? If by month 3 you've knocked out 4 or 5 behaviors, man, like you're in a different, you are changing. Like you are dropping body fat, you're building muscle, you're getting strong, you're feeling better, your energy levels are better. You know what I mean? Like you feel good about yourself. This is how it works. This is how it goes, okay? And one of the things that I haven't wrote on here, but is, we call it ready, willing, and able, okay? We ask on a scale of 1 to 10, how ready are you, how willing are you, and how able are you to do something, right? Because a lot of times some people will be like, yeah, I'm in, but they're not ready, willing, or able to, for instance, work out 6 days a week. And I'm not saying you have to work out 6 days a week. I'm just saying that somebody will go like, hey, I want to do a CrossFit competition and be top 10 in the region, and I want to do it in 4 months, right? And you're like, hey, that's going to be really tough. You're going to have to train 6 days a week and sleep 8 hours a night, and they're not ready and willing and able for that. So then we're going to have to adjust the plan, either the timeline, right? We're going to have to adjust the timeline to where they are ready and willing and able. And one of the things that we do is call it the magic question. Okay, this is something you can ask yourself, your kids, probably like anybody, right? Let's say we determine we're going to do a specific strategy and action step and a habit at the end, and you're like, okay, great, I'm awesome, I feel good about this. Okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident do you feel that you can do this 90% of the time? Right? So on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident do you feel that you can do this 90% of the time? Now, if the answer is a 9 or a 10, we're going to move ahead with that habit. Okay, we're going to move ahead with those action steps. If the answer is an 8, or definitely a 7 or a 6, but even an 8, right? Now 2 things happen. I'm going to ask, hey, well, interesting. What is it going to take to get you to a 9 or 10? And then we start diving in that direction. And a lot of times what's happening is we have to make it easier, strategically. That doesn't mean that, listen, when I say easy, don't take that the wrong way. Easier doesn't mean you're not going to get as good results. Sometimes making it simpler is actually what's going to get you better results. So we're going to make it a little regressive, just a little bit strategically. And then when you're like, yeah, you know what, I feel a 9 or 10 out on my confidence scale for that. Awesome, let's move ahead. And then we start tracking and looking at those things. Right? So those are just some concepts around coaching, because like I said, behavior change and change psychology is very, very, I would say, it's a vast, I would say, science, and there's a lot of methods connected to it. And we use that to, like I said, to get results. We use the science of nutrition, we use the science of behavior change, the social sciences of environment, so all these different things, and that's why we've been so successful with helping people sustainably transform. And so with that, I'm going to go here and show you guys like this, right? So this is our 6 steps to coaching, and we kind of do this every time when we work with a client. So first we assess and gather information, right? We identify goals, and it's like we try to get as much as possible. Here's the thing. It's the craziest thing in the world if somebody goes like, oh, you want to lose weight? Oh, cool, just do this. That's great. We want to find out as much as we possibly can about that person, their desires, their wants, their fears, what are the foods that they like to eat, right? What is their day like? How are their sleep patterns like? How many meals a day they like that? We assess and gather all types of info. We actually send out, before people start our 30-day results in advance program, which is just our trial, right? It's a risk-free trial. We actually send a form where you fill out and we find out a ton about you, and then we have a strategy session to find out even more. So from there, we understand the client, right? We understand you and build your story. And when I say build your story, what that means is hey, look, we kind of get a bird's eye view. We get an insight into your life, because if you don't, and I can give you all these prescriptions and they won't matter because it's just not relevant to what's actually going to work for you, right? And we're not really being on the same page, right? Because one of the things I said here is hey, the ready, willing, and able that I talked about earlier. And the second thing is collaborate. This is a collaborative coaching. I'll tell you what's not collaborative coaching. You come in somewhere and you go hey, I want to lose weight. Okay, cool. Here's this meal plan. Do it. Right? Do this thing and you'll get results. What say did you have in this? And we know that with successful transformation or successful coaching, there's a collaboration. You make a lot of decisions, autonomy. If you make the commitment and choice, you'll be more, I would say, you'll be more able to and more compliant with doing it. This has been proven, right? Self-determination theory, autonomy, right? So we collaborate. It's not telling you what to do. You get to pick, and you're gonna do stuff that you love doing, right? So number 3 is creating an action plan and the next step. So once we get all of that, we build the story, we understand better, we see the insight, then we build an action plan. We go hey, here's the next things that we're going to work on, right? And think about going back to this. This is how we'll know that it worked, right? This will know how we'll know how to move on. From there, we choose the actual next thing, right? And test it. Hey, okay, cool. In the next 2 weeks, here's what we're going to focus on. These specific actionable steps. This is how we're going to track and we keep you accountable. Okay. From there, we observe and monitor. right? Because once again, like, hey, there's always course correction. Anybody that says like you're gonna do a thing and it just goes that way, you're crazy. There's no way, right? It's like great coaching and like I would say great success plans have course correction, right? We even do this thing where once we make the plan, we go like, okay, cool, what could go wrong? Tell me one thing that you're almost for sure is gonna be an obstacle at some point in time, right? And once we get that, we go like, okay, cool, so when that happens, what are we gonna do? Notice that. We already made a plan B as well for when shit hits the fan, because it does, that's life, right? So we're gonna observe and monitor and see what happens, we're gonna course correct, and we're gonna keep tracking, and we're gonna keep getting these results. And then number 6 is we're gonna use outcome-based decision making, right? So we're gonna make decisions based on the outcomes and the feedback. We're not just gonna guess and throw shit against the wall and see if it, like we're always assessing and we're always collaborating with our clients, and that's why the success has been so high over the, I would say, last 11 years now, right? Of I would say Vigor Ground as the gym, and a lot longer too with myself coaching. So the thing is, I've done a lot of things wrong to get to a lot of things right, and guess what? We still don't know it all. Always learning, right? It's because I don't want to stand here and go like, we figured it all out, and you know, until we can't help every single person, you know, transform for good sustainably, like I will not stop, right? And so that means I probably won't stop, right? But we have had a massive success rate with some of these things that you've seen, and like I said, this is not just on the first side where I showed you those 7 different things that people do. Like that is like a very, very like big study showing what actually works. Okay, as far as people, because like I said, my goal is not to help you lose weight quick and then you gain it back. Our goal is to help you transform for good and have those skills and that competence to keep it off for good. And guess what? And then also influence everybody around you to do that same thing. So if you'd like to, I mean, this is, you know, I said I was going to make a short video. Obviously, you guys understand that, like, I'm not good at that a lot of times. So if you want to see more, I'm going to post a link in here you can click to. It's called an article that I wrote. It's called Detox from Diets. It's a long one. It's got a great infographic of what we give our clients in the first 30 days that helps them succeed in the first 30 days of a trial here. So you can check that out and click on that. It's called Detox from Diets. I'm going to warn you, it's 23,000 words long, so it's pretty much a book. I'm giving it to you for free. There's no opt-in, there's no nothing. It's just go there and read it, right? And the other thing that you can always do is you can try us out at our 30-day results in advance program. It's risk-free, it's $197. Risk-free meaning like, hey, if at any point in time you don't love it, we'll give you every penny back. And here's what you do. You get this nutrition coaching for those first 30 days. You get access to our team training. You get access to 1 time a week semi-private coaching with a coach. You get access to our small groups. But you get this nutrition coaching, which by itself is, I would say, worth priceless. Priceless if it helps you change. So with that said, you know, go check out the Detox from Diets, I would say, blog post, and hit us up if you are interested and if you're committed to, you know, getting on a journey and a catalyst to start your sustainable transformation. Coach Luka, I'll see you in the next episode, breaking things down for you. Peace out.